We are here for a hearing of the Environmental Remediation Working Group. It is Friday, November 17th, 2023, 1 p.m. in Conference Room 309. I'm Representative Nicole Lowen. I'm one of the co-chairs, and this is my co-chair. Go ahead.
Hello, Ellie Cochran.
And then I'll let our other members introduce themselves who are present.
Aloha, I'm Representative Kanani Souza. Thank you.
Aloha, Mahina Poi Poi.
And then we have a couple members not present, Reps Kobayashi, Takayama, Peruso, and Nishimoto. So we are going, and I also want to just thank my office manager, Elise, who's sitting in the back here. She did a lot of work on this report as well, so she deserves recognition for that. So we're going to do a quick summary. There's just a handful of slides about the working group, and then we'll take testimony. So I assume everyone's thoroughly read the report, and it's a little bit of an evolving situation, so there might be some things that are already slightly dated based on new things that have come to light. And so we'll be, incorporating testimony and thinking about that as we move towards the final draft. And then we'll go through, when we get to testimony, we'll go through the testifier list of who submitted testimony in advance, but at the end of that, if there's people here who didn't have a chance to sign up in advance, we'll open it up to anybody else who might be present. So with that, again, just going through these slides really quickly, this is the interim working group on environmental remediation, and the charter of the working group is to evaluate the cleanup of ground and ocean contamination, including time frame and techniques utilized, and to prepare recommendations for appropriate legislative action. Next slide. This is a little bit probably small to read right now, but just to summarize these are kind of the findings that led into the recommendation. So just thinking about wildfires in urban area having significant amount of contamination compared to wildfires that occur in, say, a forest or more of a natural environment. The debris and ash that remains afterwards can, have contamination and runoff. It can become airborne and poses a risk to environmental health and human health. Long-term monitoring and sampling are necessary to monitor contamination in air and water, including drinking water, nearshore water, surface water, wastewater, stormwater. So not just drinking water, which might be the first thing that comes to mind. And there's also really a need for further research to better understand some of the long-term environmental impacts of the contaminants that are present after an urban wildfire. And then, finally, just to highlight this, which also leads into one of the findings that we had, parts of the Lahaina coastline were formerly wetland areas. This is something I learned about. And restoration of wetlands would have a host of positive benefits, increasing resilience, providing flood and erosion protection, habitat for native and endangered species, nutrient filtration, carbon sequestration, and also opportunities for cultural and environmental engagement. So there's a lot of community support behind restoring the wetlands, and often after this kind of disaster, it provides an opportunity to rebuild back in a different way. So we saw that as really one of the big opportunities. So next slide. We'll quickly go through these. I won't read the whole slide, but there's kind of three main recommendations. One is additional funding for the relevant entities in DOH, DLNR, and UH for ongoing continued long-term monitoring and sampling and research efforts. Next slide. And then another issue that came up was debris removal and disposal. So this has been also somewhat of an evolving situation and been in the news, but that's the question of where to, create a new site to remove debris to. And next slide. And this relates to what I just mentioned, restoration of coastal wetland areas. So the recommendation here would be to support further looking into the feasibility and logistics of doing this coastal wetland restoration. And last slide, I believe. This is just looking forward to the next step. So we're gonna hear from you all today. We wanna hear how we can make our report better, and then we'll go back and work on that more and have final report coming out mid-month next month, and then work on any bills that would be relevant for the 2024 session. So yeah, without further ado, we'll move into testimony. And first on the list is Life of the Land, Henry Curtis. Please come forward.
Aloha,
co-chairs Lowen, Cochran, and members of the working group, interim working group. I'm Henry Curtis, Executive Director of Life of the Land. We have been involved in toxic contamination for 50 years. We worked on Village Park in Waipahu, where we got a little over $200,000 from the legislature to do soil testing to find high levels of chromium, arsenic, and dioxin in the soil. I served as community co-chair of the Hickam Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board from '96 to 2004. RABs are interfaces between the military and civilian populations, advising the military about cleanup priorities and advising the community about what the military is doing. I'm currently community co-chair of the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam RAB, which doesn't include Red Hill because it's an active site, and RABs only deal with inactive sites. But I've certainly followed the Red Hill fiasco. The number one thing that we have found from 25 years, 50 years of doing this research is the Department of Health really does not like to participate and is not transparent and conducts a lot of meaningless and wasteful use of funds. If you're putting a lot of money into the Department of Health for the air monitoring, water monitoring, and land monitoring, we really believe the results, the analysis, the methods, and the results should be public, but there has to be independent third-party quality assurance, quality control to both do sampling and analysis to verify that the DOH information is accurate. Mahalo.
Thank you. And next up we have Nature Conservancy. Oh, Anthony, for you. And then Kim next, yeah.
I don't know if she'll be on yet, but thanks, co-chairs and working group members. I'm Anthony Ching. Today I'm actually speaking on behalf of a coalition of organizations that include the Nature Conservancy, Trust for Public Land, Resources Legacy Fund, and Kupu. Mahalo for the opportunity to speak today. As organizations focused on Malama Aina, we see environmental remediation as an interconnected component of conservation. Sound conservation will generally reduce, I think, the need for environmental remediation, and sound environmental remediation will help conservation going forward. Thank you for the recognition of the wetlands, in the working group report. We really appreciate that and support that. Significant additional funding for natural resource management is and will be central to Hawaii's ability to implement these sound recommendations. So you have our written testimony from our coalition, but what I really want to emphasize is a request to include the following statement in the final report, looking at for DLNR to effectively remediate the environmental impacts of the Maui wildfires and all other environmental disasters from whatever source. The state must significantly increase funding for natural resource management and restoration, either through raising the revenues from visitors, other means, or a combination of the two. So in conclusion, I want to express our coalition's strong desire to collaborate with policymakers. We appreciate the important work that you're doing and look forward to partnering with you to ensure that you have the support needed to make these recommendations come to fruition. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we're going to finish with in-person and then we'll go to virtual. But next that I have listed in person is Ted Ralston. Someone present?
Actually, I believe George Purdy's online, and you should have been the one.
Yep, I have him on my list. Okay, so we'll go now to our people who signed up to testify virtually, and then we'll open it up to anyone else who wants to say anything. So first we have George Purdy with the Hawaii Pacific. Or actually, I'm sorry. First, we have Kim Felinsky with the Nature Conservancy.
Hello, guys. Just give me 1 second to step outside. How are you doing?
Hi, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks. 1 more second just to get started. Hi, my name is Dr. Kim Felinsky. I work for the Nature Conservancy, and I'm here today both in my capacity as a Nature Conservancy scientist and a technical advisor for Julio Kawaiola. We just want to offer our strong support for the work that this committee is doing, and specifically the nearshore coastal water quality monitoring work that we're recommending to support. The WHOI has been out there as first on ground in Lahaina and really helped to coordinate some of the sampling that's happening with QH. So we appreciate being a nod to the WHOI. We also wanted to mention that the wetlands that were once characteristic of Lahaina provided a important ecosystem service there, both for water quality and for wetland plants and organisms. So that highlighting the work of wetlands in Lahaina and the possibility for restoration is important. So thank you for all the work that you're doing, and we appreciate you letting me take the time to testify today.
Great, thank you. And then next we have George Purdy with the Hawaii Pacific Advisory Group.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, pull up my paper. It's bigger. The chairs, Lloyd and Cochran, members of the House. Hawaii Pacific Advisory Group, organized under the NHO Hawaii Pacific Foundations, welcomes an opportunity to comment on the work group draft report dated November 1st. Hawaii Pacific Advisory Group is a volunteer network of people who cares about Hawaii and connecting the dots. Filling the gaps, we are focused on fire intelligence, disaster logistics, personal safety, regenerative reconstruction, and community inclusiveness. We invite anyone from the work group to observe and participate directly in our ongoing Maui works via Zoom, checked in 3 times a week. Our advisory group acknowledges the work group findings. Work that HPAG partners have already started and contributed greatly to the larger challenge of environmental remediation, which we must look at as a permanent changes to the way that we do business, educate our citizens, and care for the future of our land. It is those motivations that caused us to start the process I will describe a decade ago. Reports are attached to my submitted testimony, as these subjects are complex. I summarize here and encourage extended interaction with the work group and collaboration on legislation. Before I step any further, I'm George Purdy. I live on Lanai, Maui County. I forgot to say a little bit about me. I'm in the fire service, airports. I do a lot of drone work, fought a lot of wildfires. And part of the regenerative bug that got into me was that we never ever had a plan to restore the areas that we fight fire every single year. So a lot of these things here, come straight from the heart, and what I have researched over 10 years, taking a lot of research at Nature Conservancy, working with them on Lanai, just taking bits and pieces and trying to find a solution for a quick response just to get cover back on the land and let the community take care of it. So just to touch that one, the regenerative agriculture and Ahapua Ridge to Reef thing must be the framework. How do we reconstruct our care of the land? I have started such a program on Lanai and offered it to my home island of Maui. The attached programs is underway on Lanai to produce ulu. There is a strong connection between how we manage water and soil and vegetation and fire risk. Conversions of waste products, otherwise disdained for the landfill, into carbon negative construction material. Clean water, hydrogen fuel, biochar, soil amendments, filter medias in such are underway at facilities in Minnesota. A copy of the waste conversion plan is being planned for Hilo under the name UMET. Waste conversion is by a molecular process method diverted from long duration space programs, where conversion of waste is essential. The UMET process owner has volunteered to demonstrate conversions of Lahaina's waste if we can ship a reasonable amount to the Continental Yard. A white paper with specific is attached. Our advisory group has proposed to several working groups that a deep fire hazard intelligence network be formed as an information layer that underlies a unified command based on the Ahamoku planning and the response structure. Such network adopts and depends on technology in drones, sensors, sensor analytics to provide comprehensive picture of the threats to drive informed emergency response. Such networks of drones and sensors is perfectly suited to perform environmental monitoring as well. In fact, the environmental monitoring is the essential element, observing vegetative fuel content and combustibles, among other factors. The Hawaii Pacific Group stands ready to help the working group with the legislation submitted on behalf of the Hawaii Pacific Advisory Group. Mahalo, George Purdy, Lanai. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then actually realized we did, I'm sorry, didn't read my list quite right, but we do have someone in person here who signed up in advance to testify. So Castle Foundation, Eric Ko, if you want to go forward. And then the next person on the list is Destiny Apilado virtually, and then we'll open it up to anyone who didn't sign up in advance. So thank you for coming. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mahalo, co-chairs Lowen and Cochran, and to the working group representatives for the opportunity to be with you. My name is Eric Ko. I am the Vice President for AINA and Community Resiliency for the Harold Castle Foundation. Thanks for the invitation to testify. The Harold Castle Foundation stands with you in stressing the importance of remediation on Maui. Shortly after the fires, we made 7 grants totaling $400,000 to recovery and plan to provide more support alongside other philanthropy partners. We look forward to working collaboratively with the legislature to do so. I am not proud to say that we remain one of the largest private funding sources for environmental management in Hawaii. And yet, it has never and will never be enough, particularly in light of our increasingly uncertain climate future. Consequently, we fully support the overarching report findings to seek additional funding sources for this work. Furthermore, we would also respectfully submit that the funding be durable to not only help with the long road of remediation and healing ahead for Maui, but to also do our best to ensure this doesn't ever happen again anywhere else in Hawaii. Possibilities such as a climate or impact fee fund, perhaps from the TAT, for example, could help us address increasing threats at the scale and time frame necessary to be resilient to increasing impacts of climate change. Perhaps not sexy, but certainly sound would be to invest in those already working every day to manage native forests and buffers that we know are more fire retardant, and healthy reefs that we know are better buffers to storm surges and erosion. For us, the tragedies on Maui give renewed intention and purpose to the critical yet chronically underfunded work of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Its partners, like the Hawaii Association of Watershed Partnerships is just one example, as well as its grassroots community collaborators across the state. We feel a resilient environment will be the work of a resilient community, but it will start with resilient funding. Thanks for the chance to share my thoughts with you.
Thank you. And then is Destiny Apilado on Zoom?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Aloha Environmental Remediation Group board members. My name is Destiny Apilado, and I come before you today as a Kanaka Maoli Aina advocate from Mililani, Oahu. I'm here to voice my support for the draft's recommendation to restore the historical landscape of Moku'ula and Mokuhina wetlands. I also suggest that that restoration process takes a biocultural approach. In tending the pressing environmental concerns, it is critical that the community is engaged and involved. Throughout the environmental remediation process, there must be a conscious effort in preserving the deep-rooted connections between the people of Lahaina and their Aina. To achieve this, I propose a biocultural restoration approach that harmoniously restores both the ecosystem and the cultural relationships with this sacred place. Moku'ula, once a majestic residence of the Hawaiian royalty and the heart of the Hawaiian kingdom, holds profound historical and cultural importance. This cherished site offers a tangible link to our ancestral heritage. By embarking on the restoration of Moku'ula and Mokuhina, we find an extraordinary opportunity to honor and perpetuate invaluable traditions and stories that are cornerstone of the healthy ecosystem in Lahaina. The restoration of Mokuhina wetlands may require investments, but its returns will encompass far more than monetary gains. By actively involving the community, we not only breathe back life into the historical site, but also foster resilience throughout the entire ecosystem. Native plants and wildlife can find habitat in that restored site, potentially serving as bioindicators and reducing the need for frequent laboratory tests in the future. A biocultural restoration approach will bring about social and cultural abundance that will ensure environmental well-being for Lahaina for generations. This type of resilience is exactly what Hawaii needs in order to face the challenges of climate change that are still yet to come. In response to the working group's draft report, I emphasize the need to invest further in the plan to make Moku'ula and Mokuhina restoration a reality. This endeavor will symbolize our unwavering commitment to preserving Lahaina's unique history and also bringing justice to the ohana affected by the events of August 8th. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify in response to the draft report, and I appreciate all the work that is being done in this area by your working group. Mahalo.
Thanks so much. Okay, that's everyone I have on my list that signed up in advance. If there's anyone else here who wanted to testify on this, please come forward. Come on up. Good to see you.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES, a grassroots initiative. So, standing in the gap as someone who has worked as a volunteer for various sustainability and environmental teams such as Surfrider, Sustainable Coastlines, where we do beach cleanups and talk about solutions to environmental problems, I can attest to the importance of environmental remediation, which is the removal of pollution or pollutants from water or other natural places to protect human health for the purpose of restoration. So there's a connection of environmental impact and public health. From Senate Bill 788, it talks about how vegetative burning is an important concern, and the purpose of this act, if passed, would be to relate to smoking and environmental protection. So vegetative burning results in significant health concerns because of the inhalation of pollutants when wood, grass, and trees burn. So a framework from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, declares fine particulate matter and air pollution is linked with respiratory and cardiovascular conditions, such as asthma, chronic bronchitis, heart concerns, disabling breath, and the risk of death for those who are suffering from heart concerns. Racial and ethnic minority demographics are more affected by these pollutants. To list a few impacted demographics. And preventative measures against air pollution may save lives. So the Clean Air Act aids in reduction of air pollution at the federal level. And it's good to kind of regulate these things, for the health of the community. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Is there anyone else? All right, if not members, do you have any questions for any of our testifiers? Rep. Souza, go ahead.
I have a question for Life of the Land. Thank you. You made a comment about the Department of Health and how there should be third-party monitoring to verify Department of Health information. Do you think that a third-party entity would simply be verifying the information, or should they be doing more testing? Do you think there's enough testing going on right now post Maui fires? What are your thoughts?
I think they should do both. They should both do additional testing to verify that the testing is accurate, and they should do a quality analysis on DOH's results.
Okay. Are you currently familiar with what the Department of Health is currently testing as far as their air quality testing?
I have followed some of that, but the question is not what are they testing for. It's whether I believe or what Life of Land believes you can trust what they're saying.
Okay.
And it's the latter point that we are concerned with.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, members, any other questions for any of our testifiers? Nope. Cochran? Nope. Okay. Well, then we will, I guess that's it, and we'll adjourn. Thank you all very much. And thanks members for the work.
Thank you.
So, thank you.